begin again at 11 right now to 1 p.m. Again, before I continue, I just ask for a moment of silence for Officer Bradley Hawes. Thank you. Officer Hawes, again, will be truly remembered and missed. For those who are new to attending this conference, there's a wide range of attendees to include dignitaries, legislators, law enforcement, prosecutors, and other important highway safety partners and stakeholders. I just feel it very necessary, again, to go over the impaired driving stats. I know I've done that in every series just to begin the conference. Just so that if there's, again, any new attendees, they can have a clear idea of the issue and the problem of impaired driving on New Hampshire roads. Okay, so again, to put things into perspective, in 2021, there were 73 alcohol and/or drug-related crashes, which claimed 83 victims. That's 70.3% of the 118 fatalities that occurred in 2021. Again, 70.3% of the 118 fatalities were impairment related. Also, of the 118 fatalities that occurred in 2021, 35.6% or 42 victims died as a result of an alcohol-related crash. Also in 2021, drug tests came back positive for 61 operators involved in fatal motor vehicle crashes. In 2022, preliminary data is currently showing that there were 96 victims of an alcohol and/or drug-related crash. That is 65.8% out of the 146 fatalities in 2022. So 65.8% of those fatalities were impairment related. Those are really big numbers and concerning numbers. Just to let everyone know about where we are with fatalities in general, as of November 20th, 2023, fatality data shows that we have had 123 fatalities thus far in 2023. So same period last year, if you were to look at that, we were looking around 120 fatalities. As you know, last year we ended the year with about 146 fatalities in 2022. So basically, we're on track to meet that same number in 2023, which is, again, of great concern. So I really feel that all this data that we're talking about this morning is certainly points to how serious this problem is as it pertains to impairment and the increase of fatalities. And the reason why it really is so important to collaborate during this impaired driving series and in the future, as we continue to work together in this partnership to save lives. Now, just a few things I want to mention before we get started. If anyone needs a certificate of attendance, please email Paul Ruggiero. His email is in the chat box. Also, all sessions will be recorded and will be sent out to you after the series to review at your leisure. As attendees, your video is turned off and you're muted. You will only see the presenters. There will be time for Q&A at the end of each presentation. So please, feel free to get involved with all these presentations. If you have any questions after the presentation, really get involved, because a lot of times your questions and the answers that come with that are really important, so that information gets out to everybody. So please submit your questions through the chat feature on your screen. And with that, we'll kick off the first presentation here. We have Jeff Landy, New Hampshire Law Enforcement Liaison, Lieutenant Chris Storm, New Hampshire State Police, and Christopher Casco. Chris is actually, Lieutenant Storm is unable to make it today, so in his place, we have Sam Provenza filling in for Trooper Storm. So certainly Sam has that institutional knowledge and that experience to answer and talk about the issues at hand. So first, I just want to talk a little bit about Jeff Landy. Jeff Landy is a retired New York State Trooper. and has been working in the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety for 7 years. Jeff spent his 26-year law enforcement career entirely in the field, serving as a field training officer in Troops F and T in the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Unit, while spending the bulk of his time on the New York State Thruway, I-87, primarily between New York City and Syracuse. During his career, he was consistently among the New York State Police top performers for vehicle and traffic law enforcement and commercial motor vehicle inspections and enforcement. He believes that together with all other countermeasure strategies and education and awareness programs, the only way to maintain control of our roadways and to reduce crashes, fatalities, and serious injuries is through vigorous, high visibility, and effective enforcement. And I can tell you this, we are so happy to have Jeff on our team. He's so passionate about everything he does, for sure, and he certainly gets the job done. Just a great person to work with day in and day out. Also want to give a quick bio of Sam, Trooper Sam Provenza. Trooper Sam Provenza. Trooper Sam Provenza is a New Hampshire State Trooper, currently assigned to the Special Enforcement Unit in Concord. Trooper Provenza is the commander of the New Hampshire State Police Drug Recognition Expert Unit. Trooper Provenza began his emergency services career while he was still in high school, working for an ambulance service. Trooper Provenza has been a nationally registered paramedic since he was 20 years old. Trooper Provenza spent most of his medical career in critical care, aviation medicine in both Colorado, and as a critical care flight paramedic for the Dartmouth Hitchcock Advanced Response Team. DART, I did not know that program. Trooper Provenza has cared for thousands of patients, usually requiring the most advanced care in the most challenging environments. Began his law enforcement career in 2011 with the Canaan Police Department, where he became a drug recognition expert and then a drug recognition expert instructor. Trooper Provenza became a New Hampshire State Trooper in 2019, where he serves on the DRE unit, crisis negotiation unit, and is a field training officer. He has instructed multiple DRE and instructed DRE A-RIDE and SFST schools in New Hampshire, and has traveled out of state for DRE field certifications on several occasions. Trooper Provenza is currently one of our IACP recognized DRE course managers in New Hampshire. He is currently assigned to the Special Enforcement Unit in Concord. Is the commander of the New Hampshire State Police Drug Recognition Expert Unit. Again, began his emergency services career while he was still in high school, working in the ambulance service, and we already mentioned that. But with that, I tell you, this is just a long bio. Obviously, you have plenty of experience, Trooper Provenza, and we thank you for being on the call. We also have Chris Casco, Attorney Casco, just to read his bio. Chris B. Casco is an attorney for the New Hampshire Department of Safety, where he holds the position of administrator of the Bureau of Hearings. As administrator, he oversees a staff of 7 attorneys, hearings examiners, who conduct statewide hearings for the Department of Safety, and 7 Department of Safety prosecutors. Chris is the former chief hearings examiner and has worked as a hearings examiner and prosecutor for the department. He has been with the department for 23 years. Prior to that, he worked as an assistant Rockingham County attorney. As a prosecutor, he handled motor vehicle violations, misdemeanor, and felony cases, has conducted bench and jury trials in both the circuit and superior courts with a concentration in DWI cases. Moreover, he has handled appeals of hearings in superior courts. He chairs the New Hampshire Motor Vehicle Industry Board and testifies before the New Hampshire legislative committees for the department. He frequently lectures on administrative license suspension hearings at the police academy, local police departments, and at attorney training seminars and CLE programs. He has taught legal courses at the New Hampshire Technical Institute and Granite State College, is a former 2-term member of the Concord School Board, He's a member in the Board of Trustees in Concord Public Library. He also is a member of the Secretary of RB Productions Board of Directors, a local youth theater company. He's the author of Chapter 7, The State's Challenge to the Defendant's Case in a Practical Guide to Trying DWI Cases in New Hampshire. Chapter 8, ALS and Misdemeanor DUI Prosecution Manual. I guess it looks like you wrote a novel. Is that true, Chris?
It is.
My goodness, a novel. You even have time to write a novel. The Elimination Plan, and he's currently working on a novel. Another novel?
Yeah.
My goodness. I don't know how you have time to do all that you do, Chris. We appreciate you being on the call. Jeff, I hand it over to you to kick it off. We got some great experience here talking about the issues. Thank you.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. As John said, impaired driving is one of the biggest issues we face here in the Office of Highway Safety and in New Hampshire as a whole. I'm going to run through some slides here. We've been quite busy since last year's conference. Paul, let me know if this is up and running. Can you see the slides?
Yes. Yep,
okay.
You're good. Just need
very good.
Full screen.
Yeah, we've been quite busy here. Matter of fact, given the fact that our alcohol-related fatalities are on an average, a 3-year average, over 30% of the total, that came with a NHTSA designation as a mid-range state, which brings its own set of issues for us as far as funding sources and availability of funds and what we may do with funds. One of the requirements of becoming a mid-range state is the fact that we had to implement an impaired driving task force. That became a requirement for New Hampshire. And under the direction of the Commissioner's Office, the New Hampshire Impaired Driving Task Force was established. Pardon me, folks. Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Anyway, the Impaired Driving Task Force, under the direction of the Commissioner's Office, was established November 30th, 2022, as a subcommittee of the New Hampshire Traffic Safety Commission. Having a slight technical difficulty here. Stand by. Yeah, that's what I do. Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah. Also along with the necessity to establish an impaired driving task force came the requirement to implement an impaired driving strategic plan. That is due to NHTSA August 2024, and that is in progress as we speak. So yeah, we are quite busy here with this, and one of the things that we did do was the New Hampshire Impaired Driving Task Force came together to set us a few priorities. As a matter of priority, the number one priority that we actually identified where we thought we might be able to make a pretty good impact pretty quickly in the realm of deterrence and evidentiary collection is to reduce the refusal rate. Currently, New Hampshire has one of the highest refusal rates in the nation. One of the other things that we're looking at is support, reinvigorate, and rededicate law enforcement and impaired driving enforcement efforts. Steve Fisher and John Clegg are going to talk a little bit more about that after this presentation. And as far as what we're doing during the holiday season this year and overall in our efforts to involve our local and state law enforcement officials in removing these impaired drivers from the roadways before they can hurt or kill someone. That's going to be a pretty impressive presentation as well. The other thing we're looking at is to revisit elevation to felony status in the state of New Hampshire. Currently, I believe it's fourth offense is a felony status. Sam will be able to correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, and as well as Chris Casco. But that's something that could throw a little bit more deterrent level into the whole program, overall. So with these three things, we think we might be able to make a big difference here for the state of New Hampshire and everyone on our roadways. So before we get into the number one priority here, which is the real topic of discussion, I just wanted to go over something that we looked at recently. What we're seeing as far as grant-funded DUI arrests and a corresponding increase in alcohol and/or drug-related fatalities. We went from a high of grant-funded DUI arrests in 2019 of 544 down to about 158 in 2022, and currently at 137 arrests in 2023 with the third quarter in. Still waiting on the fourth quarter to come in. It should be a little bit higher than that, obviously. Hopefully it's a little bit closer to the 22, 23. Maybe we see a trend going back up, but that's a pretty stark decrease from 2019 to 2022, 544 to 158. And like I said, you can see the corresponding increase in alcohol and/or drug-related fatalities. That is a very.
Could I ask a quick question just to clarify for everybody what is meant by DUI arrest, to just clarify that as opposed to overall statewide arrests?
Okay, so these are grant-funded arrests, Chris. Overall statewide arrests would be anything outside of our grant-funded operations. In other words, we provide to our local law enforcement partners funding for DUI enforcement, as well as our state police funding for DUI enforcement. So this just looks at what we can see on our database from those statistics. So these are the grant-funded alcohol and/or drug-related arrests.
Great, thanks. I asked that question only because when I first looked at it, reading through quickly, I thought, geez, those are all the arrests in New Hampshire. And
no, not at all. And that's why I put in there grant funded. Yep.
Okay.
So we can see this readily available in our office, whereas it might be a little bit more difficult for us to dig down and get the overall numbers. I would assume, Chris, that they're more than likely consistent, probably a consistent decline. That's certainly something that we can look at as well. I just wanted to give a glimpse into this. Anyway, this is a priority for us to reinvigorate and rededicate law enforcement, to try to get those arrests up and try to get them off the road before they can strike. So the meeting that we had of the Impaired Driving Task Force, October 25th, this year, 2023, we focused in on the number one priority that we've identified, which is reducing that refusal rate here in New Hampshire. And why, you might ask, why would we want to go down this road? Well, this is a 2021 snapshot of the refusal rates in New England. This does not include Connecticut. And you can see New Hampshire in red on the right. In this particular slide, slightly lower than Rhode Island, although we believe it was closer to 70, a little over 70, but drastically higher than some of the other states in New England. Maine was broken out by resident and non-resident. Vermont is consistently low at 22. Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Consistent with that, and more historically, this is a NHTSA publication from 2014, published in 2014, focused in on the year 2011. And for the states that were participating or had data that they can contribute, as you can see, in 2011, that showed that New Hampshire was pretty much dead last almost at 72%. Vermont, I believe, was at 14 and Maine at 6. That was 2011, published in 2014. So previous to that, a study previous to that, which was released in 2007, which looked at the year 2005, does have New Hampshire dead last at 81% refusal rate. In that year studied, Vermont looked like it was at 17% and Maine at 7%. And Vermont and Maine, obviously the two closest states to us, population-wise, VMT-wise. For a comparison, that's a pretty stark difference. So these are the reasons we're focused in on this. And there's a lot of positives that can come from reducing the refusal rate. So how are we going to do this? And Chris is here. I'm so glad he's here to talk about this at the end of this presentation. we need to strengthen the RSAs and the Code of Administrative Rules. Refusal of consent, administrative license suspension need to be strengthened. There needs to be a little bit more teeth and a little bit more deterrent value in those, so that we can get the evidence that we need for increased convictions and to reduce recidivism. So this is all important at this juncture, given the fact that we are pretty much at the high end nationwide on this subject. So let's look at the ALS laws in New England. Just quick at a glance. Maine on a first refusal is 9 months suspension. On a second refusal, it goes to 18 months. They have a third and a fourth, right? 4 years and 6 years. Vermont is 6 months on the first refusal. On the second, it's 18 months. They have a third, life suspension. A fourth refusal, life suspension, no reinstatement possible. That's pretty heavy. And that makes all the difference, and that's why they're down around 14% refusal rate. Connecticut, first refusal 6 months, second 1 year, third 3. Massachusetts, pretty much 6 months, 3 years, and then 5 years on a third refusal. Rhode Island, 6 to 12 months on the first, and then 1 to 2 years on the second, and 2 to 5 on the third. And New Hampshire pretty much is 6 months on the first, and then for second or subsequent 2 years. I think, and Chris or Sam, correct me if I'm wrong on this, one of the issues that we have here with this in New Hampshire is that there's really not a whole lot of difference between refusing to take the test and taking the test. The suspensions are pretty much consistent. Chris, am I right in that?
You are. I think the one difference is that refusal suspension time has to run consecutively to other license suspension, whereas someone who takes the test, their administrative suspension time would run at the same time as another suspension. For example, if they're convicted in court, their time would run together, where a refusal would run on and after.
Right.
That's correct.
So that said, let's just take a closer look at Vermont. Vermont really, it's pretty tough up there with this, and I think it makes a drastic difference for them, as I said, at 14%, 22%, I believe it was in 2021. So the difference there is for the 6 month suspension on the first refusal, when you do take the test, it's only 90 days. So there's a drastic difference there, right? And the ALS hearing must be requested within 7 days. So those are some differences there. Second refusal suspended for 18 months. Obviously, the third refusal being suspended for life. On the third refusal, although you can apply for a restricted driver's license after 1 year, and if granted that restricted driver's license, you are required to install an interlock device in the car. The fourth refusal gets really heavy. And I mean, these are the people who are repeat offenders. These are the recidivists. These are the ones that are really out there. Sooner or later, they're going to cause a crash and they're going to hurt somebody. So this is really targeting these people. And it's a life suspension, no reinstatement possible. Additionally, refusal with a previous DUI conviction in Vermont or a fatal or SBI crash, serious bodily injury, that can result in being charged with the crime of criminal refusal. So it is a crime in and of itself there at that level to refuse to take a chemical or other test. So given this this information, everybody came together, all people involved in this, full support of the commissioner's office, Chris Storm, Sam Provenza, Chris Casco, everybody involved in this came up with some proposed changes for New Hampshire that we'd like to explore. And those are, upon a first refusal, we'd like to move that from 6 months to a year ALS suspension. And then on a second or subsequent refusal, 3 years ALS suspension. Coinciding with that, upon a DUI arrest, an officer shall serve immediate notice of license suspension effective 14 days after the date of service on Form DSMV 426. Now that's an increase, that's a decrease of to 14 from 30. Is that correct, Chris? It's now 30?
That's correct. It's now 30 to request a hearing.
Right. And then one of the other things that is pretty impactful is for a refusal, the officer's sworn report, the DSMV 426, shall not be withdrawn. In other words, that refusal will stick for purposes of subsequent refusals and subsequent sanctions. So along with that, however, 180 days of the suspension may be waived upon a plea of guilty or nolo contendere. So that gives a little bit of leeway for some movement, pre-trial movement in proceedings. But the fact that the refusal will actually stand is important for those subsequent refusals, certainly targeting recidivists, and that could help a great deal. So along with that, we'll need to adjust that DSMV 426 warning accordingly. Possible anticipated results. We obviously anticipate an increase in chemical tests administered, a decrease in refusal hearings, increase in conviction rate, fewer plea bargains, decreased recidivism, and hopefully that all translates into a decrease in serious injury and fatal DUI crashes. That's the ultimate goal here, is to get these drivers off the road before they can hurt someone and keep them off the road. Obviously, for everything that we do, there is going to be some kind of an issue created down the road. Downstream somewhere, there will be an effect. And some of the possible issues created, if we are able to implement these things, some of the possible issues that may be created are an increased workload on the forensic laboratory, which they're pretty busy right now. So that could be something that we'll have to deal with. Possibly an increased post-arrest phlebotomy program. A little bit of a taxation on that, and also increased workload on DMV IID. That's the ignition interlock device program. That said, we believe that any issues that may come up like this would be workable, and we'd be in a position, probably with NHTSA funding through the Office of Highway Safety, 405D, and other grant funding possible, we could help alleviate any additional workload created in these programs, and expand the current post-arrest phlebotomy program as well. That's a quick presentation as to what the New Hampshire Impaired Driving Task Force is kind of the direction we're kind of going in, what we'd like to achieve, and we think we may be able to make a real impactful difference here. And in order to facilitate and field questions, obviously Sam Provenza, who was introduced by John, and also Chris Casco, are here to answer any questions that anyone may have on this. So to that, I am going to end this here and open up to questions.
Hey, Jeff, thanks for putting all that out there. We really look forward to hearing questions from people, and also if anybody has any possible insight to how this may help their decrease in refusal rate, how this might help someone's conviction rate, and also we're really open to hear how this might increase their workload, so we can make sure that we're working both sides to address those issues as they're coming up with this. So the first question it looks like we have there, Chris, this was for you, would be, are there any proposals to change the RSAs?
There would be, to implement these suggestions, there would need to be statutory and administrative rule changes. So certainly that's something that would be needed to change the suspension term for refusal. That's statutory.
That was a question by Representative Dry. Thank you.
Joan
Lambert. Yeah, Joan Lambert's asking, at what point are current offenders required to use an interlock device?
That's another good question. A mandatory interlock is for a second offense or greater conviction. It's for driving after suspension during a DWI revocation. So those are mandatory offenses for which the interlock is required. Then there are discretionary offenses where the Commissioner of the Department of Safety can order an interlock. So we do a lot of those hearings, but there are certain aggravating factors in a case that under our administrative rule for when we schedule someone for an interlock have to be present. So some of the things we're looking at, and we review all of the convictions for DUI in New Hampshire to decide who should be called in for an interlock hearing or not. So anyone who's got a prior offense or a prior administrative license suspension will be called in. Anyone who is at an aggravated BAC level, so 1.6 or greater for someone 21 or older, or for under 21.08 is the aggravated threshold, although any under 21 DUI conviction we're calling in for a hearing. So those are some of the most common that are discretionary interlocks. And then for those that we're calling in and having an interlock hearing, at the hearing, we're looking at a lot of different factors. Have they done alcohol counseling? Their age at the time of the DUI arrest is looked at. The BAC is looked at. The treatment is looked at, and what type of treatment, because essentially at that hearing, what we're doing is assessing future risk, and we're ordering an interlock if either the person's safety or the safety of other users of the highway would be enhanced by that person having an interlock device, then we will order it. Another mandatory interlock device is someone who holds a limited license has to get an interlock device in order to get that limited license, and then they have to have it for at least a year after that point. So those are some of the different interlock scenarios that are under New Hampshire law.
Do we have any other questions out there about the refusal program, about some of the proposed changes to the refusals? So we definitely appreciate the questions, and we definitely appreciate all the legislature that has joined us today, because it is going to take a team effort to work on the ultimate goal of reducing these fatal and serious crashes. And we really think that this is a really forward-looking step in reducing that and being able to bring that conviction rate up, and hopefully that we don't have the reoffends.
Right, is there any other questions at all? Or? Okay, so I guess is that Jeff? Is that it? Did you want to go over any of the slides or?
No, I don't think so, Paul. I think we've touched on what we're looking to do here, and I think Sam and Chris have contributed here to the importance of this, and hopefully we can garner the support we need to do something here and move this forward. Like Sam said, it's a forward-looking thing that we're trying to do, and it could make a great deal of a difference all the way around here in New Hampshire. So I don't think going over the slides is necessary. If you want to move on to the next presentation, that'd be wonderful.
Sure. Yeah, no, I just wanted to mention that presentation was great. It's very sobering. I will tell you that, no pun intended. That the refusal rate is so high here. It's truly is unfortunate situation. But all right. Well, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next presentation. And it will be a presentation on high-intensity enforcement mobilizations. As you know, our office does a number of mobilizations and saturation patrols. So I think you'll find this program presentation extremely interesting. It'll be conducted by John Clegg, our program manager. And just a little bit about John. He's worked for the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety for 23 years as a field representative, and now as the program manager, and a great program manager. It's been a pleasure here working in this office. with such leadership. So John is the chairman of New Hampshire's Traffic Records Coordinating Committee and serves as vice chairman on the Traffic Safety Commission, the Impaired Driving Task Force, and is a member of the Motorcycle Task Force and Breath Machine Advisory Committee. He believes strongly that no one person, agency, organization, or institution can make a substantial, measurable difference to minimize crashes and save lives on New Hampshire roads without a strong partnership with others working to achieve this outcome. Prior to working for the Office of Highway Safety, John worked in the private sector for 6 years as the safety director for the Potomac Supply Corporation Lumber Company in Virginia, and worked 2 years in the field of workplace safety for the New Hampshire Textron Automotive Division, located in Dover and Farmington, New Hampshire. John holds a degree in safety studies, which he has used as a foundation over the years to passionately improve safety for others in the workplace and on New Hampshire roadways. Also, as a co-presenter, Stephen Fisher, who works in this office, as field rep in this office, and Stephen is a career employee for the state of New Hampshire. Throughout his time with the state of New Hampshire, he has held positions with the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, the New Hampshire Department of Agriculture, New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services, and New Hampshire Department of Safety. During his time with New Hampshire DOT, he was able to obtain a commercial driver's license and then move on to becoming a mechanic inspecting New Hampshire DOT fleet vehicles. While as a mechanic, he was also a shop safety officer with the Department of Agriculture. He was part of a 4-person team of inspectors that would inspect weighing and measuring devices with a specialty in vehicle scales and high-speed diesel pumps. With New Hampshire DHHS, Stephen quickly moved up in positions as a family service specialist trainee to a family service specialist 2. He helped train and mentor new hires. After being a field service specialist, Stephen was hired into specialized group, hired to review cases and determining high error-prone areas with the state's caseload. After he moved into a training position with the New Hampshire DHHS, training FSSs statewide. This training program included in-person trainings, remote trainings, development of training materials, including PowerPoints and recorded trainings, and interpretation of policies. With 2 positions over the years with New Hampshire DOS, Stephen spent time as a commercial vehicle licensing examiner, earning a CDL-A, and helping to revamp the update and test procedures to meet AAMVA standards of the time. Most currently, with the position with the Office of Highway Safety, Stephen has been able to assist in updating the grant agreements, federal state language, and create new Excel tracking sheets for the grant process, helping to streamline the system and organizing DUI saturation and safety corridor efforts. Once again, Stephen's been taking the lead on this, and John, both have been working diligently on these, and can't wait to hear this presentation.
Well, thank you, Paul. Thank you for those kind words and the introduction as well. Again, I'm John Clegg, Program Manager for the Office of Highway Safety. And Steve, did we want to just jump in and talk a little bit about, or show the slides as it pertains to the videos, or just talk a little bit about the enforcement effort first?
Oh, we'll show these videos first, John.
Okay.
Every day when my feet hit the floor, I have to decide to survive this. It doesn't seem real. Drunk driving is so selfish. If you can't think about the victims in your path, think about yourself. You could kill an innocent person. Do you want to live with that? Wish people would stop and think about the repercussions of drunk driving. Living without him is the hardest thing I'll ever do. Tyler in life was a protector. I can't let this happen to anybody else. If I can save one life, I think Tyler would be proud of that. Every day.
Starting Thanksgiving Eve, also known as Drinksgiving or Blackout Wednesday, we will be stepping up designated patrols looking for impaired drivers.
For the next 5 days, added officers will be on New Hampshire roadways looking for people impaired behind the wheel. Over the last 5 years in New Hampshire, there have been 7 fatal crashes over Thanksgiving week. 4 of them involved a driver that was under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
And perhaps most frustrating is this fact: impaired driving is 100% preventable.
I am a victim of negligent homicide.
Karen Bowen knows how the decision to drive can impact more than just the drivers involved, but a whole family. She lost her aunt to a drunk driver when she was 12 years old. 22 years later, she lost her mom to a crash after a 23-year-old had spent the night bar hopping.
When you lose a loved one to a violent crime, it never goes away.
Police asking you to give yourself time on the roads this holiday season. Wear your seatbelt and think about how you'll get home before having a drink. Will you be calling a cab or a rideshare company? Or will it be your turn to be the DD? If you are the designated driver, police say to take the job seriously to make sure everyone makes it home for the holidays.
Getting home safe to your loved ones is always worth it.
And police are asking for help from you, saying if you're out on the roads and see someone that looks like they could be impaired behind the wheel, to call 911. They say it could be the call that saves someone's life. We're live in Epping. Kelly O'Brien, WMUR News 9.
Public safety officials from 3 New England states are now teaming up to help prevent impaired driving over this Thanksgiving holiday. State police from Maine, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, all taking part in a nationwide impaired driving enforcement initiative. It's kicking off tomorrow. They say law enforcement across New England will be stepping up their patrols, looking out for people who are driving under the influence. New Hampshire resident Karen Bowen has been affected by impaired driving firsthand. She says when she was 12, her aunt was killed by a drunk driver in a head-on collision. Bowen says that more than 20 years later, her mother was then killed by a man who'd been drinking before getting behind the wheel.
You can no longer think of it as an accident. Knowing that impaired driving, you have a choice to get behind the wheel or not. This is not an accident. When you see that cross alongside the road, those lives matter.
Now, Maine State Police say this is a deadly weekend on roads here in Maine. Last year, there were 3 fatalities over the Thanksgiving holiday, one of which did involve alcohol. So a reminder, officials say always have a plan, whether that be choosing a designated driver or just using a ride share service as well.
We have an today, a man accused of setting fire to an elementary school in Bath is expected to plead guilty.
So, John, you want to speak to those videos?
Yeah, certainly. I've talked in the first series, the second series, about what we have planned in 2024 as it pertains to some of these important initiatives addressing impairment and addressing speeds, distraction, and everything else as it pertains to corridor saturation patrols on many of our high crash corridors throughout New Hampshire. So, those clips that you saw on the news, that was from a press conference that took place on I-95 yesterday. And this initiative, that DUI regional initiative that's going to be conducted by all law enforcement within the state of New Hampshire and our partners in Mass in Maine, is going to be from November 22nd to November 26th. So it's really important. This really, really excites me because when I was a field representative, we started this back in 2011. And I mentioned prior in one of the other series that in 2011, we had 90 fatalities. It was our lowest fatality year that we have had. So there is no doubt in my mind that these work. And when we looked at the data, and basically what we do is when we conduct these initiatives, we pull the data, and that data goes into our annual report that has to go to NHTSA. And when I go back and look at the data, it really shows, through all the arrests, all the warnings, all the violations through these initiatives, that we have some serious visibility on our roads out there. So, to be able to make that change, to be able to make the difference on our New Hampshire roads is so important to our office. And I know it is to all of our partners as well. But I can say this, enforcement is the front line of really making that difference. In my mind, there's no other way that you can make such an impactful difference if you don't have that law enforcement component attached to it. And so when we saw the clips of the press conference that we had, we try to saturate the news pre and post of the initiatives. That's extremely important. Number one, the public wants to see what the issues are out there. We talk about the issues, we talk about the data and whatnot. And then after the initiative, we do another press release through the news to talk a little bit about the results of those initiatives. How many arrests were made, what a difference it made out on our roads, that visibility and whatnot, and changing behaviors. So we also look at the data when it comes in to say, hey, you know what kind of a difference did we make out there? Were there any crashes? Were there any how many DWI arrests were there out there? Because if we put it out in the very beginning, that informs that motoring public, that might change those behaviors so that, we can minimize those overall crashes and the resulting, injuries or deaths that may occur from those as well. So hugely important. You saw the Beth Shaw video that was put together, developed by our partner AAA. Dan Goodman has been such a huge, very important partner to the Office of Highway Safety. So AAA put that together with the Shaws, who unfortunately lost their son Tyler to a drunk driver. He was 21 years old. And when I look at that, it's very hard for me to swallow the emotion that comes up when I see that video. And that video is so important for other viewers to see. Because that might help to, again, bring that emotion out and help to change those negative behaviors or whatnot. So we try to get as many of those PSAs made, public service announcements made, to get out there to the public. But there's other ways also that, on the media end, that we can really help to change those driving behaviors. And I'll give you an example. The media vendor that we work with, certainly in 23 and 22, that media vendor was able to, when we had some of these initiatives being conducted, whether it be impairment related or saturation patrols being conducted, they were able to geofence those locations where those initiatives were going on. So let's take, for an example, you have Manchester conducting a regional DUI saturation effort. Manchester has a lot of bars, establishments in the city that, serves alcohol and whatnot. We look at the data. We see that there's been many DWI arrests in Manchester. We also see through the data that there have been, fatalities, impairment-related fatalities or crashes that have occurred. So basically what we can do using our media vendor is geofence. Just picture a big circle that geofences that whole area, and everyone within that area gets the message on their phone. So social media, radio, TV, all these media outlets and sources that we use are just so important to use in conjunction with enforcement efforts. NHTSA study shows that when you have this media messaging going out at the same time, it does make a difference. Obviously, it makes sense. It changes those behaviors, and so that's pretty much the media side of what we do as an office and what our partners do to help us out to really curb what's going on out there on the roads and help to change those behaviors. So, Steve, I'll hand it over to you now.
Thanks, John. So just to touch base real quick on the enforcement efforts we have. Obviously, the focus of this conference is our saturation efforts for DUI. These are typically organized by the New Hampshire Office of Highway Safety. We invite all agencies, regardless of grant status. And by that, I mean, if an agency receives a grant, they'll get the email, but we've had some interest from agencies that have not been able to take the grant due to staffing problems or budget issues. So we do invite them because they have voiced the interest in having a officer out there, maybe on their regularly scheduled patrols, just to have those blue lights visible. we do invite, the agencies are typically New Hampshire State Police, whichever troop is in that area. Sometimes there's multiple troops depending on the county or the area that we are doing that saturation effort in. The county sheriff's offices are invited because whether people know it or not, they are still law enforcement officers and they can enforce the rules of the road. And then all of the municipal police departments. Funding typically for saturation efforts comes from DUI grant funds or the non-grantees, their general police department or sheriff's office budget if they participate. We do encourage local PDs to also set up smaller scale efforts with neighboring communities around other dates that they know to be high DUI times. Those are things like old home days or things like that. In conjunction with the saturation efforts, we also do a speed or safety corridors. Our most recent speed or safety corridor was over the course of the summer, the spring through the summer on 125. Again, these are organized by our office here in Concord. We invite the New Hampshire State Police, county sheriff's offices, and municipal police departments. The funding's a little bit different for these. They can use their grant funds, whether it's speed or distracted. They can use either of those because it's a safety corridor. They can enforce any laws under any of these grants, so they can watch for other things also. Again, smaller in scaled efforts are encouraged with the grantees that we do have. And then finally, the biggest and most visible campaigns we have are the high visibility mobilizations. These are the national efforts of Drive Sober, Get Pulled Over, You Drive, You Text, You Pay, and joined in New Hampshire Click, which is known as Click It or Ticket in most states, but due to our seatbelt laws, it's focused on under 18 passengers and drivers. These dates are set by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The funding is it will come out of the high visibility mobilization grant funds. Non-grantees use their own budgets. Agencies, if they expend all of their grant funds in these because they're a smaller grant, can use other funds to offset the cost to be out on the road for extra shifts. And again, agencies can patrol on their own budgets if they don't receive a grant. Just quickly go over, every agency is invited to partake in our grant process. It's up to them whether they will or won't accept the grant funds. We obviously invite New Hampshire State Police. New Hampshire Liquor Commission, they take part in this in supporting the DUI efforts by going into establishments during saturation patrols and or during DUI checkpoints. We invite all 10 county sheriffs. 5 of them are currently receiving grants. And then municipalities, we have 196 with police departments. 130 of those police departments currently receive grants through the Office of Highway Safety, which is up by about 40 from last year. Again, all agencies are invited to participate with any enforcement effort, whether it's a DUI checkpoint or a safety corridor. And then, of course, due to staffing, some PDs are not able to participate with the overtime grant, but they will have officers out in support of the effort on their own budgeted time. When it comes to the enforcement efforts, we typically have one pre-enforcement effort meeting. Prior to that effort, we hold that meeting to determine the appropriate date, as each community will know the best time for their patrols. Currently, as you saw in those news clips, Rockingham County and the Seacoast is doing a effort where they are focusing on the 22nd of November through the 26th, that Thanksgiving holiday time frame, due to the higher instances of DUI. during these meetings, we typically go over the statistics for the region, and we have those slides that we showed during the Rockingham County meeting that we had about a month ago. And you'll see what exactly we use to sort of get those departments and agencies up to speed on why we are doing this. And even more important, this is the post-enforcement effort meeting. It's not really a meeting, but what happens is we go and we ask the agencies to submit their numbers to us with how many stops they have, how many DUIs. It's breaking down their shifts out on the road. And then that information comes back into our office. We take all that information, we tabulate it, and then we get a press release ready to be released for the Department of Safety. And typically, the departments will share those press releases. Now, just real quick, these are the sample slides of, along with the videos that we showed during this. We will typically have, like Beth Shaw came and spoke to all the attendees virtually and in person at that first meeting we had. And then we're able to go over, why are we doing this? Well, when we did this meeting, we were at 107. And you can see here, that was October 16th. We're just a little over a month beyond that, and we're already at 123, 124. So you can see the importance of getting out onto the road to do these efforts. The one that really kind of hits home with a lot of these departments is when you break it down by county. And we are just in Rockingham County, and you can see that Rockingham County in 2022 had a total of 20 total throughout the whole year, 12 in the same period that this sheet was done, and they were over double of the number of fatalities at the same period last year. So this one it sort of hits home for a lot of the counties to see where they stand in fatalities and crashes with those fatalities. We do show a breakdown of crashes by the time of day, and this is the most. These next three slides are the most current information we have for this breakdown. You see 2019. We like to show them obviously from about 1500 to 2359. That's the biggest time frame. There are some abnormalities in this. You can see here it was 1200 to 1459 in 2020 was tied at the highest time of day. Some might be able to link that to potential being at home due to COVID and then going back out on the road. And then finally, 2021 is the most current, and we've kind of gone back to that 1800 to 2059 timeframe of being the most deadly to be out on the road. This is the graph that we saw earlier with Jeff, showing that the grant-funded DUI arrest went down and the fatalities went up. We also have the ability to look at historical comparisons for Rockingham County. We'll do this for each county. Our plan is this year to get to each county. So 10 different dates throughout the year, kicking off with Rockingham County in November, and then adding in the Drive Sober campaigns in December and August. And that's what I have. If Trooper Provenza has anything to add to what State Police adds to this, or what goes into scheduling for these enforcement efforts, it'd be appreciated.
Sure, thanks, Steve. So the state police is participating, as you saw from the press release and the video there, with the Maine State Police, the Massachusetts State Police. We are participating in the high visibility enforcement efforts, always working with our partners at the Office of Highway Safety, our county and our local partners, especially over this Thanksgiving holiday. We have numerous troopers out there on the roadway, from the Special Enforcement Unit, the Drug Recognition Expert Unit. Each of the troops are contributing additional additional personnel to be able to have this high visibility. We want people to, we want them to see the troopers on the road. We want them to see the blue lights. And also, maybe if they don't see it, we want that a little bit of the idea of, hey, can I come around the corner and maybe there's a trooper sitting there? Maybe if I call for a designated driver, have a non-drinking designated driver and make that phone call, this won't be the night that I get arrested for DUI because all I see out there are blue lights around every corner. That's kind of what we're striving to do. We definitely want to prevent. We look at each one of these as a homicide that we're able to prevent when we're able to take an impaired driver off the roadway. And if we can get it where someone's comfortable to say, I'd let my family drive on that roadway because I think the number of impaired drivers are decreasing. That's what we're trying to do. So state police is out there working with our partners, and we'll continue to do that.
Well, thanks so much, Trooper Provenza. Certainly your partnership with state police and partnership with all of our local partners and county partners. Like I said before, frontline really begins with law enforcement in making a huge difference out there on our roadways. And we really appreciate it. Everything everyone does to help us out with that. And the most important thing is to save lives. We hear those stories all the time. Like I mentioned before, Beth Shaw video, there's many others that we've heard of, our law enforcement partners, as well as the Office of Highway Safety. And it's heart-wrenching, so law enforcement is certainly passionate about doing everything that they can to address the issues. And, they're in many cases the ones showing up, first responders, to some of these heart-wrenching stories that have occurred. So again, we thank you for your partnership, Trooper Provenza. So again, I just wanted to quickly mention we're going to be doing these regional DUI saturation efforts, enforcement efforts within all 10 counties. And each of those counties, there's going to be a press release pre and post, and possibly a press conference for these counties as well. So stay tuned, everyone, on that. The same is true for the saturation effort. So, Steve, I want to thank you very much for your part in the presentation. Did you have anything else that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, so just real quick, if there are any departments on that may be looking for funds still, we can still write grants. We do have funds available for certain programs. They can reach out to us. We'll do that right up until maybe March of this coming year, getting departments to sign on. If there's any lawmakers, representatives, or senators on, you want to know if the municipalities in your area are receiving them, you can feel free to reach out to the Office of Highway Safety. My counterpart James and I are always happy to talk to you and talk you through the process of getting the municipalities grants. We do have a limited amount of funding left for speed equipment, which can help in some of these safety corridors. That safety equipment is, or that speed equipment would be, radar, in-car radars, LiDARs, movable speed signs, trailers, and counting devices or counting boxes that are able to be deployed in the efforts to help curb the speed and the aggressive driving. The last thing I have, John, is this is my sales pitch for everybody on here. If you could take out your phone real quick, scan this QR code. This is a survey that the Office of Highway Safety puts out. It started this last year. We look for your thoughts and recommendations to help create what was formerly known as our Highway Safety Plan, is now known as our annual grant application. We take the results of all of those and we're able to formulate a plan of attack on how to best use this money and how we can go about making the roads safer in New Hampshire. If you have any questions, You can reach out to any field rep or John at the number and email address here. And we're here 8 to 4, Monday through Friday.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Steve. And, I want to thank you and Roger Beauchamp, who you guys are going to be heading up these DUI saturation patrols and the speed saturation patrols as well. Just so that everyone knows out there, it is a lot of legwork from setting up the meetings to, scheduling the times, the dates, to tracking all the data that's coming in, to doing press releases. It's a lot of legwork for sure. Again, when you're counting 10 counties and, it could be well over 10, just kind of a guesstimation at this point, over 10 high crash corridors that are going to be set up as well. So really appreciate everything you guys are doing for 2024 to set this up. All right, I guess we're going to move on to one of my favorite parts of the conference, and that is the awards that we have to give out. First off, I want to say that these awards are really, that we're giving to the recipients are so important to our office, and we're so thankful to those individuals out there that are so committed to addressing the issues on our roads out there. Like I said, it's the front lines, and it doesn't always have to be law enforcement. You can be the front line in making a difference out there if you're involved in any one of our projects or one of our partners, whether it's, you're conducting educational, or outreach to change those behaviors. So that all matters. So we appreciate everyone's involvement here. But certainly, just to start with our local police departments out there, in recognizing our first recipient here of receiving this award from the Office of Highway Safety. This is signed off by Assistant Commissioner Eddie Edwards as well. And I'll read this first one. This certificate of appreciation, this acknowledges that Officer Justin Takashian, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, as officer for the Kingston Police Department and partner of the Office of Highway Safety, you have honorably served the citizens of the state of New Hampshire. Your unyielding dedication towards the mission to reduce crashes on New Hampshire roads has undoubtedly resulted in incalculable lives being saved. Thank you for all of your support in the Office of Highway Safety. And just want to let you know that Officer Justin Takashian made 32 DUI arrests in 2023. And this is Officer Takashian's award. Everybody can see that. So thank you so much for your commitment, your passion to highway safety, and your passion to save lives on New Hampshire roads. Next certificate of appreciation is goes to Officer Chloe Rubitis. As officer and drug recognition expert, DRE, for the Durham Police Department and partner of the Office of Highway Safety, you have honorably served the citizens of the state of New Hampshire. Your unyielding dedication toward the mission to reduce crashes on New Hampshire roads has undoubtedly resulted in incalculable lives being saved. Thank you again for all of your support. And again, your commitment to address issues on roads throughout New Hampshire. Officer Chloe Rubitis, again from Durham Police Department, she made 23 DUI arrests in 2023. Thank you very much, Officer Chloe Rubitis. This next award, this goes to Lieutenant William Daisy. As Lieutenant for the Northumberland Police Department and partner of the Office of Highway Safety, Again, you have honorably served the citizens of the state of New Hampshire. Your unyielding dedication to the mission to reduce crashes on New Hampshire roads has undoubtedly resulted in incalculable lives being saved. Again, thank you for all your support. And Lieutenant Daisy is given this award because his passion to really do as much as he can to remove the impaired driver from New Hampshire roads here. And what, Lieutenant Daisy did, he organized and coordinated multiple sobriety checkpoints in 2023 to include, working with Coldbrook, Lancaster, Littleton, and Gorham to coordinate these sobriety checkpoints. I know he was involved in trainings here at PS&T with our TSRP at the time, Ben Mackey and Lieutenant Chris Storm. But he is just one of those partners that I'd like to recognize, and our office would like to recognize, is really just doing whatever he can to make a difference out there. And we all know that there's partners out there that are busy with many other things, and he took it upon himself really to schedule, coordinate, and help to organize this whole thing. So it's partners like that we truly want to thank. So thank you, Lieutenant William Daisy. Next award goes to Trooper James Lamoureux. Am I saying that correctly? I hope I am. Thank you. As Trooper and Drug Recognition Expert, DRE Instructor for the New Hampshire State Police, partner of the Office of Highway Safety, you have honorably served the citizens of the state of New Hampshire. Again, your unyielding dedication toward the mission to reduce crashes on New Hampshire roads has undoubtedly resulted in incalculable lives being saved. And thank you for all your support. And when I say has undoubtedly resulted in incalculable lives being saved, when you make 45 DUI arrests in 2023, you're passionate about what you do. You're passionate about saving lives. Trooper James Lamoureux, thank you so much. This is your award. The Office of Highway Safety and all of our partners really appreciate everything that you do for us and to save lives out there and to help us towards our mission. And this last award goes to Trooper William, New Hampshire State Police Trooper William Moran. As Trooper for the New Hampshire State Police and partner of the Office of Highway Safety, who have honorably served the citizens of the state of New Hampshire. Your unyielding dedication to the mission to reduce crashes on New Hampshire roads has undoubtedly resulted in incalculable lives being saved. Thank you again for all of your support. Trooper William Moran made 36 DUI arrests in 2023. So we want to thank you for all of your support and your dedication to, again, saving lives out there on New Hampshire roads. Thank you very much. And that concludes the awards portion. So in closing this conference, I think about where we have been in the past. I've been here for 23 years. I think about where we've been in the past and where we are today. And certainly the number of fatalities have dropped. They've increased recently. I know that we've had, many obstacles in front of us. We've had COVID, which may have also contributed to personnel issues that departments might have had. It's not easy out there, that's for sure. But I look at where we are today, and we have so many partners that are passionate about everything that we do. I want to thank everyone listening today. Number one, we've had some wonderful presenters. I want to thank all of our presenters taking time out of their busy schedules. And I really feel that this has been just an incredible conference. But again, we have many partners out there, and there's so many names that I'd like to mention right now. And just real quickly, I just want to mention all those members that are on the Traffic Safety Commission who come to the table when we have important legislative issues that we really need to discuss. changing our laws is very, very important. As you saw, the refusal rate at 70%, we're extremely high. We're working with our partners. We're working with our legislators to try to help to change things there, to remove that recidivism possibly, and save some lives out there. So it's the changing of laws. It's the communication and the connection that we have that makes a huge difference. It's when we communicate, we make that difference. When we make that connection, we make that difference. And that's certainly true with the members of the Traffic Safety Commission. Also, the members of the Motorcycle Task Force. I want to thank many of the members out there, Dan Bennett, Dan Goodman. There's many others, Tracy Buravage out there, Emery, if you're listening, all you folks are very much involved. We know our motorcycle fatalities are as high as they've been since 2005, 41 motorcycle fatalities. So we're really working diligently to address those issues by getting messaging out there and doing whatever we can, these initiatives to help address that as well, and talking to motorcycle groups as well. We have Tracy Buravage as the president of the Motorcycle Rights Organization that is working with those motorcycle groups to hopefully change those behaviors as well. So we have the Impaired Driving Task Force, again, that's been set up to really address the impairment issues that we've been talking about through this whole conference. You've seen the data, you see the problem. We're doing everything that we can to address the issues with all these commissions and task force groups that really help us out there. So I can't thank everybody enough out there. And lastly, everyone is seeing some of the folks up on the screen. Office of Highway Safety. First off, I want to thank Paul Ruggiero. Paul is a mastermind, the wizard behind the screen, as I like to say. He puts together this whole conference. He's our special project specialist, and any project you give to him that maybe others, including myself, have no idea how to go about and accomplish and get done, Paul does a tremendous job. And Paul, I just want to thank you for everything that you do year in and year out. You're such an invaluable employee. Just want to thank you. Jeff Landy. Jeff Landy gets the job done, that's for sure. Again, he's so motivated every single day. He's going 100 miles an hour. I walk through the door and there's questions immediately. He's right on it. But he's handling all the state contracts. He's working on some of these legislative pieces that he just talked about, presented about today. He is just so actively involved in everything that we have going on, and he will do whatever he can to help out in any way possible. As with anyone here on this, on the screen right now. Roger Beauchamp, he's a field representative, law enforcement liaison. Huge help. There was a time where we weren't getting monitorings done for police departments. We weren't able to because we didn't have the staffing. Roger has gotten us all caught up with monitorings, and that's so very important to understand that, hey, everyone is doing things correctly as it pertains to our partners, our grantees. And when NHTSA comes down and looks at all of our files, everything checks out. So that's huge. We're not going to get those findings from NHTSA because of Roger and the thorough job that he does. So I want to thank you, Roger. Again, I want to thank you for all the regional stuff and saturation patrols that you're working on in 2024. James Gilbert. James is a quiet guy, but he works so hard every day. Sometimes I got to look and find out if James is here, but he's definitely here. He's getting work done like never before. I mean, he is such a huge part of the data collection in the crash data dashboard that we talked about. But getting everyone on board with eCrash and submitting Mach 5 crash reports to Vision. He's working with J1 VPN. We've got 135 law enforcement agencies that are submitting Mach 5 crash reports to Vision right now. So if we didn't have someone like James on this, and when I gave him that project to work on, we weren't anywhere near 135 agencies submitting electronically. So we've achieved a huge goal, and it's because of James that, when we get that crash data dashboard in place, we're going to have really, I would like to say, close to the majority of law enforcement, hopefully submitting Muck 5 crash reports to be able to receive that data so we can query that data so that we can deploy resources. So James, thanks so much. And you're also handling all the local police departments and whatnot. I can't tell you, we've got probably, I'd like to say 300, if I was going to guess, about 350 projects out there. Okay. And Steve Fisher and James Gilbert all handle the local police departments, the sheriff's departments, and they just do an amazing job. It's so efficient. It's just amazing. Can't do it without you guys, that's for sure. Dave Martinelli, hopefully he's on the call. Dave works out of our office, as I mentioned before. Dave is a DECP coordinator. He is really making a difference with increasing the number of DREs, increasing the number of trainings that are happening out there. We mentioned all these initiatives, the regional DUI initiatives, and all the other enforcement efforts that we have going on. A big component to that is the DREs out there. We have a substantial amount of the fatalities that are occurring that are drug impaired. So these DREs are hugely important. I think Trooper Pavenza, I think maybe you can comment. What do we have? Over 60 DREs right now? Maybe close to that?
Yeah,
I'm
we're
not
just
sure.
we're just under 70 DREs in the state right now.
Just under 70. So just a great increase, and he's always working on sending these folks to the conferences and whatnot. And that reminds me, sorry, when I was mentioning the awards, so every person that received an award today through the Office of Highway Safety is going to be considered and or selected to attend an impaired driving conference to enhance their knowledge in the field of impairment. And that's paid for by the Office of Highway Safety, thanks to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration show. So I just want to thank you folks. And so that's something that we're working with you as well to enhance your knowledge because you're so committed as well. So I want to thank you for that. Kathy Thompson. Kathy, thank you for everything you do. Kathy's got a lot going on. Not only is she answering phones and trying to connect the dots with everything that needs to be connected, but she's also working on entering data into our database. She's also working on reimbursements. So she is such a valuable part of the team of highway safety, that's for sure. Thank you for everything that you do, Kathy. And Julia Whalen, she's our accountant. Julia has everything funneled to her, and she handles it with a smile. And, there's so many moving parts as an accountant. I just want to say thank you to everyone here for sure as a part of this office, that there is in no way, shape, or form any way that one person can do this alone. You just an unbelievable team. Been here 23 years, and it's just been one of the most exceptional teams I've ever worked with, and that includes the private sector as well as the sports teams that I played on. So it's just a team that just comes together every day. And when you walk through that door, when I walk through that door, I feel the energy. I feel the passion and the commitment, but certainly I feel the energy of what's going on. That's the way, this office really works together. So I appreciate that. And lastly, I want to thank Commissioner Quinn, Assistant Commissioner Edwards, Assistant Commissioner Lavoie. Without them giving us the tools necessary to be able to get the job done, I don't think we'd be here today doing what we're doing. So special thanks to, Assistant Commissioner Edwards, who was so much involved. And I know I mentioned that before, but he's so connected. He's willing to help in any way he can to streamline, if we can, the process to move things along. And that's very important here as an office. And he does just that. So I want to thank all the commissioners for sure. And lastly, Lieutenant Chris Storm. Chris is, like I said before, he's got such a long resume, long bio, similar to Trooper Provenza. But you know, he has got that institutional knowledge, and he's so intelligent and well spoken, and he, you know, if it's legislative guidance that you need, if it's law enforcement guidance that you need, you know, he's the guy to go to. So again, the mantra, I'd like to say our mantra as the office, and I'd like to again thank all that attended, but this mantra for this office is there is no office, agency, institution, organization, or partner that can reduce crashes and the resulting injuries and/or deaths alone. Only together, all of us, in this collaborative partnership, can we make a difference. I wish you all a great remainder of your day, and I wish you all just a wonderful Thanksgiving. Be safe, and I wish you all well. Thank you so much.